All right. Good evening, everyone. It's 6 o'clock here in Cleveland, Ohio. Just want to welcome everyone to our chapter meeting for the ACF Cleveland Akron Canton chapter. For those that don't know me, my name is Derek Ivancic. I'm the chapter president, and we're going to be suspending any of our normal business meetings and going right into our presentation. So here with us, we have Master Chef Rich Rosendale. That's going to be doing a presentation on trends for 2025. Right now, everyone's on mute, and there will be time at the end of the presentation for some question and answer. So we will allow everyone to be able to ask questions and unmute as needed at the end. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Chef Rich Rosendale, and thank you for being here.
Okay. All right. Well, hi, everybody. Chef, thank you for introducing me and for Claudia for inviting me. It's really nice to be here. As some of you may know, I spent several years in Ohio, so have a lot of good friends back there, and have always been a big fan of the industry people out there. So happy to be able to be here to talk to you about a little bit about some of the trends of 2025. And I didn't want to go through like a slide deck of all these different, like, here's new flavors that are coming up, here's some new dishes and stuff like that. I probably will take this from kind of a different angle, kind of more of my perspective, and also maybe some things that might not always be as popular with like what other big magazines and industry professionals may point out as various trends, because I feel like there's a lot of that stuff out there. I wanted to go through some things that I feel like are kind of connected and kind of why they're happening. And I'm going to tell you, in your career, in your profession, I have always found one of the biggest benefits that I feel like has been maybe a skill. I don't want to say it's a skill, but maybe something that I've really just tried to pay attention of what is happening around me, what's happening around me when I'm traveling, whenever I'm talking with other professionals, if I happen to go to a conference or whatever. I always have my head on a swivel. I'm always paying attention to things that aren't just from the leaders in the industry. It might be something that I see in my travels at the airport, or if I go internationally. I always kind of have my eyes open for things that I think are maybe could be indicators of like what's going to be happening next. And the reason I do that is it really can position you in a place that you can be really prepared to really just take off in your operation, or to grow your business, to improve. Maybe you're trying to get a promotion or whatever. You can really shine in your organization and be the person that's really bringing out new innovative ideas. And if you're paying attention to the right information, and I know it's hard because there's so much information out there right now, there's really probably more bad information than there is good information. And I think that we can kind of be overwhelmed sometimes with like what's happening, what should I do to get ready for this next year or this next couple of years? So I kind of put together some different slides and some different ideas. And real quick, I'm going to hit on two things that are examples for me that personally that I was always trying to be far ahead. And sometimes when you do that, whenever you're looking at maybe different, maybe they might be controversial ideas, maybe, and one example would be cooking sous vide. I was cooking sous vide at a very early time in the runway of my career. And I would say even for the industry, I mean, I really didn't know anybody that was cooking sous vide. And there was a big benefit of being on top of that very early on. Another one was, I remember like when I left the Greenbrier and I went out and I launched richrosendale.com, my website. And I remember going back to a couple of conferences, and it was kind of really different because I didn't really have a restaurant at that time. I didn't really have a company. It was just basically like, hey, I'm going out and I'm going to start my company. I'm going to do this. And sometimes when you do those things, people may raise an eyebrow. They may question, what are you doing? Why are you cooking this? Why are you putting food in the bag? Why are you doing this? But sometimes you have to go with your instinct. And I also think that if you really understand what's happening out there, and I don't even want to say just with the industry, but with consumers, if you can see in your mind's eye like what your customers are looking for, you can really position yourself in a really good way. Now, the third example is probably not what is a good one, because I feel like I really was kind of preparing for this, but I had no idea how bad things were going to get. And the example is actually was the last time I did a presentation in Ohio. I was at Steellight, and it was maybe, I don't know, about 4.5 months before COVID. And I literally have, if any of you have access to Rosendale online, there's a video there of my presentation. And in the presentation, I was going through various trends and things to watch for and to prepare for. One of them was a major crisis like a worldwide global pandemic. I had no idea that we were months away from like literally the world kind of falling off a cliff. But my point of talking about that was telling people, whether you're a restaurant or a small caterer, maybe you're a culinary instructor, maybe you work at a club, whatever it may be, but it's really trying to diversify your offerings. And that can, if maybe you're just, you work on your own, or maybe you work in, you teach a course at a school. It's really just trying to diversify your portfolio, because sometimes we don't really know what the future holds for us. But being more diverse, whether that's in your skills or in your services, it just gives you more nimbleness to be able to be prepared for things that we just don't see happen. I just happen to be, I would not say lucky, but I had no idea like how accurate it was going to be. And it was actually kind of chilling going back whenever we were loading that video up on Rosendale Online, and I was like, wow, this happened like before the pandemic. And I watched some of it, and I was just like, oh my God, I remember talking about that. And it was really kind of profound and, like I said, a little eerie. Anyway, that's behind us. Now let's talk about 2025. So I'm going to go through a series of slides. I'm going to give you some examples of things that exist kind of more like in our ecosystem. And then I'm going to dive into, I got a short video, and I do want to make sure, because I know I tend to talk a lot. Generally, I do talk a lot because I'm excited about a lot of the things that I'm engaged in. And I will tell you that whatever it is you do, if you're excited about it and you're genuinely interested about it, it tends to not be as difficult. Being hungry for knowledge, if you're paying attention to the things that you really care about, that you're really excited about, do that. Don't ever not trust your judgment. If there's something that intrigues you, don't worry too much about what everybody around you is doing. And I think sometimes that can slow people down because there's so many different influencers out there. And if you can just kind of follow whatever your own path is, you generally will find that you will flourish, because we're all kind of on a different journey. We're on a different flight pattern, whatever that may be. So let's dive into some slides, and I will do a screen share, and I will attempt to do this smoothly. I'm not an expert in AV. Let's see here. Let me go ahead and go to view, slideshow, play from start. Okay. All right. Hopefully everybody can see that. Just Derek or someone, just feel free to cut me off and chime in if there's something you can't see or can't hear. Just let me know. All right. So the first couple of slides here that I wanted to talk about, and I wanted to reference the title here real quick, The Waves of Change, like how the culinary trends are redefining the future of food. And I kind of reference this more so as a ripple effect, because sometimes almost, if you think about, I don't know, if you think about dominoes, it's like one domino falls over and it hits the next one. And that's this chain reaction of all these other things that are kind of connected. And I'll kind of bring it back to that as we go through some of these. But the first one is, I know I don't want to go down the road of, politics or who's going to be in office or any of this stuff. But it is relevant if you look at, um, if you pay attention to, try to put out all the noise and just anticipate where the focus is with our country. Sometimes it has to do with people that are in office. Sometimes it has to do with social media influencers. Sometimes um, it could be something profound and terrible and significant, like, the bird flu or a pandemic, what have you. But I really see a big rise in more minimally processed foods. This is kind of more the result of things that people are really going to start paying attention to labels more and more. If you see in a lot of your Instagram and Facebook and TikTok feeds, I know some of the stuff might seem a little gimmicky, it might seem a little overplayed, but you see a lot of influencers are really gaining traction with reading labels and informing people about what particular ingredients are. And I'm going to tell you, a couple years ago, I did this presentation for all these kids. Apparently, I thought it was a good idea to invite 100 middle schoolers over to Roots, and we did this big presentation, and we had them breaking them into stations. One of the things that we talked about is I held up this loaf of Wonder Bread, and I said, guys and girls, what is this? They're like, oh, it's a loaf of bread. I was like, okay, well, what's in it? And of course, everybody rattles off, flour and salt and water, all the yeast, all that stuff. But if you really look at the label and you really look at a lot of the ingredients, there's a lot of things there that are additives. And by the way, I'm not saying all additives are bad, but you, as the chefs, as the gatekeepers, be prepared and arm yourself and be prepared, whether it be from students or from customers or from employees, for people to really start peeling back the orange and saying, hey, what is this ingredient? Oh, that is a emulsifier, or oh, that is a preservative, that is a food coloring. We are going to get more and more of that. I think it's going to be a good thing. I kind of put over here healthcare cost. Consumers are connecting diets to long-term health outcomes, prioritizing clean label, minimally processed foods. Now, I'm not saying people aren't going to eat brisket anymore. They're not going to want to eat cheeseburgers. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is the 10,000 ingredients that are in that are just in the United States that have been approved for in the FDA that you won't find in other countries. That a lot of those things that have been linked to all kinds of negative health consequences. Those are going to be relevant, and people are starting to connect the dots to what they put in their bodies and the outcomes as it relates to their health. That is more of a trend now. A lot of it is social media, political climate, just where the consumers are, where their priorities are, and healthcare. I'm going to tell you, my wife is she worked with a major insurance company for several years, and she really knows about like what the cost associated with healthcare are. And I'm telling you, this is something that is going to be a big shift this year, but not just for you to know, but to know for your customers, your employees, your students, your team members, to really start paying attention to. You're going to get challenged more with what is in a particular ingredient. And again, social media transparency. I mean, now you can have the reach of all these people at the flip of the press of a button. You can have a post that can go out, and that is a huge impact. And that has a lot of that has been viral content. So expect a lot more of that. Before I move on to this next slide, I had a bunch of things I could have put on here. One thing that I'll at least kind of mention as an honorable mention I didn't put in here, but I will say the elevating of the quality of food in healthcare facilities, assisted living and um, uh, things that are for people that are retiring. We work with some different companies as well, even in our consulting division, because a lot of the people that have been eating better quality food for, several generations, as they retire, they're going to start looking for better food options. And, the quality of food improves in a lot of different ways. You're going to start seeing, I think, people look at it in a closer lens in schools. I think it's going to be more in healthcare facilities. And listen, just because we've done it, we've tried to do it a few years ago or 5 years ago, and it didn't work, it doesn't mean that the initiative isn't worth looking at. It just means that the plays that we ran didn't work. And we work with some different companies in healthcare where we are evaluating things that are going to be like menus that have ingredients like the Mind diet, or the DASH diet, the Mediterranean diet. There is so much about food and nutrition and food as medicine that people just don't know about, that this is going to be a whole new course that I really see. There's so much runway for this. It's actually a pretty exciting one. But anyway, that's a big one, minimally processed. Equipment. Now, this is huge for any of you that want to open up a restaurant, or you already have a restaurant, you're thinking of expanding, or you are maybe you're a caterer and you want to say, hey, I want to make I want to get a new prep kitchen or whatever. We ran a concept for a year, R3 concepts, and this was a space right next to our catering operation, which is why we did it. We ran it for a year. It was in a very small space, and ran it. It was the first fully electric, hoodless, full service kitchen restaurant of its kind, at least in the Atlanta region for sure. But the food that we were doing was really high quality. And it was so weird because you would walk into the kitchen and you didn't have the heat from the broiler and the grill. Yet we had rack of lamb. We had 48-hour short ribs. At lunchtime, we had pizzas. We had burgers. And pickup times were like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, extremely fast. But why this is important is somebody may say, well, Rich, can't you, what about just putting a gas in? I'm going to tell you, if you're getting ready to, anybody that has done restaurant design, and I'm not saying that gas should not, be a factor, but what I'm saying is if you are getting ready to open up a restaurant somewhere and you look at your budget of a typical hood and all the HVAC required and the return air, I mean, it's $325,000 investment for something like that. Being able to go hoodless means that you can put a kitchen or a restaurant anywhere. And this is a huge, huge opportunity. Now, this concept, R3, we did close it, but we closed that concept. But what we actually did was really just took the staff, the concept, the equipment, we moved it around the corner into a larger location. And we added beer to it, so it's now, and we gave it a name because it's Skull Brewery, and it's in Atlanta, connected to Rosendale events. But again, all electric, and I mean, the other thing is, before we move on from this, is that not only does it give you the ability to be able to open something up with a hood, but because you're doing minimal construction, the zoning and the inspections that are required are much faster, as opposed to putting in gas and a hood, fire suppression system, all of that stuff, completely different level whenever you're doing a concept like this. Now, one of the ways that we did this, I wanted to call out some of the equipment that we used. You really are going to continue to see the electrification of kitchens. Yes, natural gas and regular gas and solar, all these different energies it's really kind of a combination of a lot of these different things when you talk about energy. But with these electric speed ovens and induction, the cost savings when we did R3 concepts, we saved about 325,000 from eliminating the hood and all of everything required associated with that. So that's huge savings. The accessibility, kitchens can be built anywhere, opening doors for startups. Um, Efficiency, speed ovens and induction improve energy efficiency and precision. Precision and speed, we use wearing induction units. It heats cookware directly, reducing cook times and energy waste. I'm going to tell you, this is another thing that people don't really think about. When you talk about waste, everybody thinks about waste as tangible products. Oh, I've got some peelings I didn't use, or I didn't use all of the mushroom trimmings. And one of the other things is also the waste of energy. And an example is when we smoke brisket, we have three huge smokers at Roots, and you could put like 80 briskets or whatever in there. You put a load of briskets in. We trim the briskets. Now it takes time to trim all those briskets. Not everybody does that, but we trim the briskets pretty aggressively before they go into the smoker. We save all that fat, which I'll refer to a little bit later. But because we're doing that, we're cooking about 30% less weight, which means that the energy needed to heat up the amount of meat that is in there is about 30% less. So if you think about the energy that you're using, all these things are kind of compounded. And if you can just grab a little bit of savings here and a little bit of savings here, the savings isn't always like something that you can hold in your hand. Sometimes it's energy, sometimes it's time. These are all things that are, if you're in manufacturing, would be considered as areas of waste. These are examples of reasons why you can't give a customer more value, is because there's too much waste throughout the organization. So those are some examples. But the speed oven that you have down here, this is a Unox Speed X oven. I have an example of one of these. This is crazy. These ovens, and this is why people would come down and they would come down to R3. And I had this one guy came in on the opening night. He was there with his wife, who was for the PR company, but he actually was somebody that did restaurant design. And he goes, man, I got to tell you, I walked in here and I just could not believe. I was like, where's all the hoods? Where's the grill? Where's the broiler? And I just showed him, I was like, this is the hotline. And they were just these rows of these ovens. Now, we were doing it a little bit differently. For lunch, we had these hot plates that we would do pizzas in. And then at dinner time, we stopped doing pizzas. And we would put a grill plate in there. And then it would be for burgers, for lamb, steaks, things like that. But to give you an example, with these ovens, these speed ovens, the steps that you're taking for a spatchcock, typical, roaster chicken, season the chicken, spatchcock it, of course, so you expose the surface area. You're gonna load it into the oven, and then this literally is a 7-minute cycle. That's an actual picture of the chicken cooked, that in 7 minutes it comes out golden brown and delicious, juicy, and it's incredible. As opposed to an order comes in, sometimes maybe you have individual steaks, you got to cut that open, you mark it on the grill, it just takes time. It takes time. But these are really very, very quick examples. Another one, I'm showing you this. There are not a lot of people that are familiar with this. With one of our facilities we have is the RC Culinary Lab. That is our headquarters for our operation. We do a lot of our high-end catering out of there. We do our consulting out of there. But we have brands from all over the world that approach us. We have a piece of equipment right now from Japan that we're testing that's not even in the United States yet. But we get people that approach us that will want me to be on a board to give feedback on a piece of equipment. This is one that is from Culinary Science. You're seeing this here. I haven't shown this to a lot of people yet. I may have done a post whenever I went out to California a few months ago, but I want to explain to you, just to give you just a breath of some of the technology that's out there, because it's really kind of hard to comprehend some of these things because they're so different. This concept, this technology actually came out of the branch of agriculture. They would use this in China to basically, not this piece of equipment, but this concept to take crops and put them in these long tunnels and to change the atmospheric pressure to cool things down very quickly. And by doing that, you extend the shelf life of the produce. Well, fast forward to 2024, I've been working with this company for the last 4 years, Culinary Science, and what this thing is essentially it's like a refrigerator, but it's really like a blast chiller. But if you open it up, it's not cold. The way that it is chilling things down is by changing the atmospheric pressure and basically pulling that cold temperature out of the product. And when you change the atmospheric pressure, you can do that for other things. You can also marinate things. You can pull brines and liquids or flavorings into a product to increase the yield on it. What are the benefits of this? This extreme vacuum cooling, new frontiers in processing. This is 5 times faster cooling. An extreme vacuum cooling is 5 times faster than a blast chiller. And a blast chiller is fast. So that should give you an idea. Not to mention, again, think about what I was saying. It's not just how fast something is, but it's an 80% reduction in energy usage. 80%, that's huge. Another one is 24 times faster marination. It enables brining, marinating. So one of the benefits is if you look at, let's just say one of you work at a big manufacturer like Tyson's or you're in manufacturing and you want to use local product. But the problem is with the local product, you're like, well, I have to buy it from this big broadliner because they have the chicken that is treated, it's already brined, it already has this, and I can't do it in our own operation because it takes too long. You could buy local product, process that stuff in-house, and you could do it in, before somebody could even get something on a speed rack in the cooler. I mean, it's profound as far as the speed. So these are examples that are way new technology that is out there. I like to give examples of things because I don't like to go and just start pulling stuff off the internet and saying, yeah, this is a new trend to watch for. This is something that's going to be happening, because anybody can do that. And while I pay attention to that stuff, I feel like a lot of the most helpful information for you is going to be things that I can really speak to. So all of these things are things that I have personal experience with, and I see the industry continuing to go in that direction. When we did Route 657, this restaurant, when we built this, and now, by the way, Roots has been open now for 8 years. We're coming up on our 9th year. But a lot of people don't realize when you come into this place, like nobody builds restaurants like this. And it was kind of a little, some uncertainties with it. And I'll give you honest opinions on any of these different things. But I'm telling you, if you're designing a kitchen for next year or the next 2 years, don't always look at the way that you've always done things, because are you designing a kitchen for the last 5 years or the next 5 years? And that has to do with labor, technology, building something that you can manage without being spread so thin and putting undue stress on your team. So the way you design things are really, really important. With Roots, real quickly, we use geothermal cooling system. It's a state-of-the-art geothermal cooling. Significantly reduces energy consumption while maintaining optimal kitchen temperatures. I'm going to tell you that place is about the same temperature all the time. We use they're literally called big ass fans. I'm not, joking. That's literally what they're called, big ass fans. We have several of those spread throughout the inside of Roots. And what that does is pushes that air down so you get really good circulation, but very little heat consumption that's needed, because what that does is it pulls up a lot of that energy that's beneath in the ground. It pulls it up and regulates that temperature throughout the facility. It works great. Natural lighting design. We have natural light in the kitchen, and you might think it's like, does that really make a difference? Yeah, it does. It's like less lights to turn on. And I don't know, it feels like the sunlight kind of adds, maybe because, many of us have been in kitchens. When I was at the Greenbrier, I worked in the tavern room, and it was literally like in the basement of the Greenbrier. So that was definitely a big plus to be able to add some natural light. I feel like it really does a lot. It's a really big value. Solar energy, I know that's something that, I wouldn't say that we would go full tilt with solar energy, but it's been a component of what we do. We have solar on the pergola, and it does contribute. The return on that does take a few years. I would say probably took about 7 years, I believe, to get the return on that initial investment of those. I believe they were like 22,000 at the time to get the amount of solar panels that we had. Water energy consumption, water and energy conservation, implementation of water efficient fixtures, energy smart appliances ensures responsible resources management throughout our operation. We use the gravity fed urinals. You would be amazed because Roots is surrounded by a drain field that is literally like you can use, I believe, about 1,000 gallons of water a day. And we found that we would really outpace that quite quickly when it got really busy. Believe it or not, one of the reasons was because of the, flushing of toilets. I mean, you go through a lot of extra water. So I'm telling you all these things just because, things aren't a problem until they're a problem. That people will tell you about stuff all the time. But I'm going to tell you, as we go into some of our other sections here and we start talking about, AI, there's the use of crypto, our computers, all these different things where we are using so much energy that even with all these very conservative efforts, we're still going to need epic amounts of energy to fuel a lot of the things that we do. And as an operator, if you can find ways to be more efficient, to design a better system, a less costly system, guess what? Those are the areas you're going to find to be able to have higher paying, more competitive wages for your team members. You're going to be able to give more value to your customer. Because if you go and ask the average person and say, hey, can you pay this person more, or can you lower the price of your cheeseburger? Most people are going to say no. They're not going to be able to do that because it's being eroded away in all these 100 little decisions. But if you have those decisions and you're aware of them, you'll make better decisions, and that compounds. Again, I'm not going to say that any one of these is the main thing. This is one that I'm really excited about. Closing the loop. This is circular economy practices in kitchens. So, there are different ways of farming, different farming principles of kind of creating this kind of natural, this natural cycle of the way the farm works. In kitchens, we don't always do that. Kitchens, a lot of times it's like, well, we produce this and a lot of this gets thrown away, or a lot of this doesn't get used. And by the way, I understand, because I know a lot of times somebody may say, hey, here's a really cool thing I do with the stems from these root vegetables. And it's kind of like, it's more expensive for me to do that than it is to just throw it away. So just because you're introducing an idea and it's using something, if it's not really compelling, or it doesn't give value to the end user, or if it doesn't make sense, it's like putting a square peg in a round hole. These things have to make sense. And I'm going to give you an example of one, and I'll tell you why I'm excited about it. And that's our tallow soap, our brisket soap. So this is an example that sometimes when you have a problem in your operation that surfaces, sometimes asking a different question is a way that a solution will surface that will fix things. And this soap concept came about, again, going back to the pandemic. We had just signed a contract with Delta Airlines, and I was so excited. We had these big orders of smoked meats that we were sending to them. The bad part of that was literally like a month later or 2 months later, whenever the first orders were coming in, we were right at a pivotal time where the pandemic was at a very precarious time, and brisket prices went from like $3.25 a pound up to $6 a pound. So completely just annihilated our profit margin. I'm like, man, what are we gonna do? So it was a little stressful. I'm thinking like, man, oh man, we already only get like 50% yield on a brisket. There's a lot of trimming that shrinks. So we finally started saying, like, we started asking different questions. We were like, hey, can we sell the fat? What does that look like? And then we started doing all kinds of things. We were doing tests where we were making floor cleaner out of the tallow. Which actually worked, and it was actually a derivative of this soap. But we really kind of put our thinking caps on, and we came up with this soap. Now, we did this for about 2 years. We sold this soap, and we had it in Roots. I had it on the website, and it really kind of just, after 2 years, we were like, okay, we're good. Prices have kind of stabilized. But in the last year, again, getting back to that earlier slide about where the consumers' heads are, people are starting to come into Roots, email inquiries, asking about our tallow soap. We want to buy it. Do you sell beef tallow? So my point is that, a lot of times as you kind of expand your repertoire, you put it in there, and sometimes whenever by that diversification, when the opportunity surfaces, you're ready for it. So we are next month going back into production with our tallow soap. We're really excited about it. But basically, consumer demand, increasing value, it's sustainable, actively seek products and reduce waste in the food system. Creative reuse, innovative business like Route 657 demonstrates the potential of transforming beef fat into profitable soap products. Business opportunity, it's forward thinking. Kitchens can capitalize on a trend through root to stem cooking and upcycled ingredients. But again, this is something that makes sense. Our customers are asking for it. We've sold it. It works. We used it in all of our operations, and it actually added like a couple $1,000s onto each batch of each order that we had. Like it was like $3,000 worth of soap. I'm like, wow, we're selling the fat. So anyway, that was a huge one. Okay, this is another big one. AI in culinary operations, ChatGPT for innovation, AI-powered tools, analyze trends, suggest recipes, and improve engagement. The way that we use GPTs, I think, are very different. I think most people don't don't really fully understand how to use Chat GPT and a lot of AI, but you are going to see AI in your cooking equipment. It's already in a lot of different things. But Chat GPT, I will tell you, if you saw the way that our team uses it, it is just fascinating. And we've been using it for a couple of years. By the way, I live here in Northern Virginia. One of the reasons I was a very early adopter to a lot of the AI uh, uh, services is because here in Leesburg, Virginia, Loudoun County, one of the big economic drivers, aside from wine production, breweries, is actually data centers. Most of the world's internet traffic passes through Loudoun County in one of the many data centers that are here. So as a result, many of my neighbors back home are work in the tech industry. So as we would go to Christmas parties and birthday parties and things with kids, and of course everybody wants to ask me cooking questions, I would ask them generally technology and AI questions, and it really accelerated my use and understanding of the technology. So ChatGPT for innovation is a big one. Another one is digital cloning. And by the way, we have classes that we offer in this. There's different resources out there. I'm not going to get into a lot of these. I totally understand all of the controversy and ethics related to many of these different topics. But in general, like any new technology, any new idea or concept, before you can really form an opinion, I think it's important to understand the subject matter. And that's what I've really done. And whenever I have an onboarding with a team member, I explain how we use AI, but also how we don't use AI. So that's another conversation. Then we have digital. We have the future and potential. AI streamlines operations and enhance personalization. Um, let's kind of go. You definitely are going to see a lot of robotics. I totally understand why that could be a controversial thing. There are already, the concept of dark factories where there's manufacturing that's taking place where there's very limited amount of personnel that are in there. And the thing is, we're talking about an industry with the restaurant industry that's very labor intensive. There's a lot of things that, if we can kind of consolidate some of that work and give people more competitive, better paying jobs that are simply, and then enhance the customer experience, then you can come up with a win-win. But as an operator, you've got to make responsible decisions and understand this stuff. You don't want to be at a competitive disadvantage where somebody across the street is using a lot of automation and stuff like that. And you kind of have this deflation problem where you can't sell a stir fry for the same price as the place across the street. So these are all, again, I understand these are sensitive topics, but they are relevant ones. This is about telling you what to anticipate, and each of you are all in different paths, different journeys. You decide what fits in your operation. So I'm going to show you a example of a digital clone. I made this one right before this for you. And I'm going to ask you to turn up your audio because the platform that I use, it's probably going to be a little lower than my voice, my speaker. So I will ask you to do that. And then after this is only about 4 minutes. After this video, we will open it up for questions and then that we should be good. So let me go ahead and stop the share. And then I'm going to start it back up. And then again, right before I start it, you may want to turn your cameras up. Thank you, Chef Rosendale, and thank you to everyone who's joining us tonight from the Cleveland, Akron, and Canton, Ohio local chapter of the American Culinary Federation. I truly appreciate your interest and enthusiasm
for innovation in our industry. As Chef Rosendale mentioned, we only have a short amount of time left, so I'll provide a quick overview of how we're leveraging AI in our operations. If you're interested in learning more, Chef Rich has on-demand classes available on his website that dive deeper into these topics. At Rosendale Collective, we've integrated AI in ways that make our work not just faster, but also smarter and more organized. One of the ways we do this is by building custom GPTs, specialized AI tools tailored to specific aspects of our business. Each GPT is equipped with unique knowledge based on its role. For example, our HR specialist GPT has access to our employee handbook, company policies, and training materials, so it can instantly provide answers about workplace questions or compliance. Our event planner assistant GPT holds all our menus, pricing, and service details, making it easy to plan and customize events with just a few prompts. This ensures that no matter what questions we ask, the AI pulls from relevant, accurate information and helps us make decisions quickly and confidently. Another exciting concept tied to AI is something called the Internet of Things, IoT. You'll hear more about this term as it becomes a bigger part of our industry. Simply put, IoT refers to smart, connected devices, kitchen equipment like ovens, refrigerators, and even dishwashers, enabled with features that communicate data in real time. Imagine this. Your oven sends you a notification when it detects uneven cooking temperatures, so you can adjust it before a dish is ruined. Your refrigerator alerts you when inventory is running low or when a specific ingredient is nearing its expiration date, preventing waste. Your kitchen's energy usage is automatically tracked and optimized, saving on operational costs while supporting sustainability efforts. At Rosendale Collective, we're already exploring IoT-enabled kitchens to give us profound insight into how we run operations, enabling remarkable efficiency and organization. And there's more. AI is also revolutionizing creativity in the culinary world. It helps us brainstorm new menu ideas, refine recipes, and analyze food trends to stay ahead of what our guests are looking for. It powers personalized guest experiences, from creating tailored recommendations for diners to helping design the perfect meal plan for events. In short, AI isn't here to replace chefs or hospitality professionals. It's here to empower us to focus on what we do best, and that is creating exceptional experiences for our guests. If you'd like to learn more about how we use AI, or if you're curious about Chef Rich's on-demand classes, feel free to check out the resources available on richrosendaleshop.com. Thank you all again for your time and interest. I look forward to seeing how AI helps shape the future of the culinary industry. Together, we can make it extraordinary. And for our Spanish-speaking audience, gracias a todos por su tiempo e interés. Espero ver cómo la inteligencia artificial ayuda a dar forma al futuro de la industria culinaria. Juntos podemos lograr algo extraordinario. And for our French-speaking audience, merci à tous pour votre temps et votre intérêt. J'ai hâte de voir comment l'intelligence artificielle peut façonner l'avenir de l'industrie culinaire. Ensemble, nous pouvons faire quelque chose d'extraordinaire. And for our Mandarin-speaking audience, 再次感谢大家的时间和兴趣。我期待看到人工智能如何帮助塑造烹饪兴业的未来，让我们一起创造非凡的成就。Now let's turn it back over to Chef Rosendale. Thank you.
Okie dokie. Okay. Okay. And then we are going to turn it over to questions here. That was my clone. That was not me. Before we do questions, I wanted to be able to thank everybody. Again, I really appreciate this. I'm going to open up for some questions, but also, I wanted to show you, I am going to give everybody, you can use the discount code for a free, if you haven't used ChatGPT, all capital letters, Ohio ACF 2025, you can get a free download of some, I think there's like 25 or so really good general business prompts for culinary professionals. And I'll show you where that's at. Again, you just load in the, and I can have Derek send that out to everyone, but just as a thank you for everybody hanging out with us today, you will get that. So basically you just go to this website, It is, you go under here under shop. We have, these are our in-person classes. We have an AI section, and then we have on-demand classes. You can go either one. You can go Rosendale Online or on-demand. We'll go into on-demand classes. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. We will go back. Go over here under Rosendale AI. This is at richrosendeleshop.com. Under shop, go to Rosendale AI, and you will go to these right here. This is the, just click this ChatGPT collection for culinary professionals, add it to your cart, and then load in all caps Ohio ACF 2025, and you'll get a free digital download of the GPTs to get you started. So I think that's pretty much it. Man, 5 minutes over, but if anybody has any questions, I'm more than happy to ask. And of course, you can email me at info@richrosendale. More than happy to follow up if there's additional questions as well.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and give our guests the ability to unmute themselves. All right, so anyone should be able to unmute themselves and ask a question if they'd like.
And thanks, everybody. I see all the text coming through there. Appreciate that. Faith and William and if I'm just that thorough, thank you, everybody. Chris, how you doing?
Hey, Chef, it's Matt Dugan. How are you?
Hey, Matt, how you doing, man?
Doing good, thanks. Hey, I thought Chris Anderson brought up a good question there. The vacuum cooling, does it
Yes.
change the cell structure of the product when you're putting it in, or does it change the structure at all because you're taking it under vacuum seal at all, or underneath vacuum?
Yeah, very good question. So I've been working with this company for a few years, and there are some things that they had to establish a patent on. And the patent, though I could not give you the specifics of what it actually does, at a higher level, it stabilizes a lot of that denaturing that typically would occur inside of like a normal vacuum machine. Where a lot of times, even if you put something like water in there, you're going to get a lot of very aggressive boiling. These are things that we worked with them on for a few years, and those are some of the things that they have patents on that really you get a very good product. And I was not able to detect any negative, denaturing of any proteins by going through that process.
Awesome, thanks.
And if anybody is interested in the contact with that facility, their Culinary Sciences, CSI, I'd be more than happy to make a formal introduction to any of you if you just want extra information on it.
And Rich, I got to contact you for a couple other things. Is it still rich@richrosendale.com?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
You can email me there as well.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
I'm just going through. Yeah, I see somebody, making a comment of the $5,500 to $6,500 a square foot for hood ventilation in today's market. I'm going to tell you, a lot of times that is a major detriment for somebody getting into opening up your own restaurant. It has gotten very costly. And I will tell you, and by the way, anybody chime in, I will talk as long as I need to. But feel free to chime in if there's any questions. But I will tell you, as somebody that when I left the Greenbrier, I, rather than taking out, first of all, let me back up. You really learn about money when you lose money. And, earlier on in my profession, going down on various initiatives on my own, When you lose investments or you lose money, I had a restaurant in Ohio for several years. You know, we opened up and we were going right through the when the recession hit. You know, fine dining was really kind of right in the crosshairs of consumer spending, but we were trying to get through it, but it's very difficult. That being said, you know, ultimately, we had closed the restaurant. I opted to, you know, pay people back and not file for bankruptcy. You know, and a lot of people would do that. You know, that was kind of my, you know, that was the direction I wanted to take. But by you know, losing an investment early on, I was, you know, still, I think my late 20s. You know, you learn a lot about, and you have a much greater appreciation and understanding for when you open something up, the cost associated with it. So when I left the Greenbrier in 2013, I decided that yes, I would borrow money when I needed to, but my primary goal was to try to generate capital, generate revenue, and to build the company that way. And that's been the principle that I've continued to do, you know, with Roots and, you know, with our Atlanta operations. And, you know, we're doing cooking classes still. But, you know, most of the cooking classes that we do, most of you never see them online because they're for private clients. We have probably 100 classes this year scheduled throughout the United States and Canada this year. And but I would tell you all that a lot of this knowledge, you know, things that I've learned, you know, from experience and from trying to get out there and really just soak up everything that I see. These are the things that really kind of help the odds of you being successful at whatever the endeavor is that each of you are going after, whether you work at a school, a club, a healthcare facility, a restaurant, a caterer, maybe you're on your own, whatever it is, your decisions will navigate and have the biggest impact on the outcome of your success than anything else. So the more you know, the better the odds are. And, you know, you want to make sure that you're getting information that's going to be helpful for you. And not, sometimes you want to know stuff, but it might not be what's applicable to your particular situation. But you definitely want to know about it. You know, you want to understand, you want to know. Somebody asked about want to know, is curious about the electrification of kitchens. Would it work in existing buildings? Example, trying to establish a kitchen within a historic building where a hood vent system construction isn't an option. Curious about the avenues and explanation to give clients to make. Very good question. In fact, Christopher, great question. Honestly, those are the perfect places to do that. And I'm going to give you two other things. One of the reasons, I mean, I love Uenox ovens. They're great. They have the speed ovens are really nice. You have the Turbo Chef ovens that everybody's seen a lot of those. And Ovention makes a very good oven as well. Many of these ovens have catalytic converters essentially in them. And what they do is they rupture and burst a lot of those particulates that otherwise would just kind of go up into, you know, like when you make bacon at home and you walk in and you can smell it, and sometimes you can even see a little haze kind of floating through your kitchen. You know, having the ability, the containment of those ovens to be able to cook a lot of those items and not have all of those, in some cases, grease-laden vapor going up into your kitchen is huge. So these ovens are fantastic for that. I would say the only thing that Alto-Shaam, another one, I mean, there are some really good options out there for you now. We do offer consulting as well. We work with a lot of different clients. By all means, though, if any of you have, you know, various questions, please feel free to reach out. But we do have formal, you know, we work with a lot of big companies with doing major overhauls of kitchen design. Classes related to managing, bringing products, ideas to market. Tyler had a question about ideas about wondering if there are any classes related to managing and bringing products, ideas to market. That's a good question, Tyler. You know, we don't have a class like that, but you know, maybe that's something that we might want to consider. I'm going to tell you, a lot of the things that we've done have really just been, they've been hard trying to go down some of these different paths. And then, things happen, and there are things that you never could have anticipated. Like, we opened up the culinary lab, and we were getting ready to take off. And same thing with our catering operation. We have a very large catering operation in Atlanta. We were catering parties up to 6,000 people in-house. And we had the pandemic came and just pulled the rug out from under us, like many people. So, a lot of these things, I would say just try stuff. But I will say, bringing a product to market, what I found is we use our culinary lab kind of as like the catalyst or the brand accelerator. So an example of that is we started off with spices, or the Rich's Backyard. We were making those in-house initially. And then once you get enough customers, then we would go to a larger spice manufacturer like Vans Spice for us, but there's many out there, McCormick, all sorts of different ones. But you would want somebody that's a co-packer, not necessarily, maybe McCormick doesn't co-pack, but you would want a co-packer that then the only challenges with that, generally, you're going to have to buy a larger run if you go with a co-packer. So, but if you build up enough customers, it's easier to transition into that. And then we also now are selling on Amazon. We have Rich's Backyard. We do our brisket on there. And same thing with the brisket. We started off doing that in-house, but now we will send quotes out for up to 20,000 pounds a month of a product, but we'll have a co-packer because we could never handle a tractor trailer load of short ribs or any of that. You would have to go, we would have to go to somebody that specializes in it. Same thing with the spices. But I would say start small, making it yourself, build up a strong brand, get a pipeline of customers, and then move into a co-packer. Sure I didn't miss any here. And thanks. It's nice to see several of you here, and I will be out doing I will be doing the Chef the Chef this year, Cater Source, a few other events. We have some classes that are we have this year as well. If we have, just real quick in closing, and of course, if anybody has any more questions, again, feel free to reach out, but then I'll kind of wrap it up. We do have, I'll be happy to, if any of you are interested in signing up for any of our classes, Derek, I'd be happy to send you guys just exclusive for, we get a lot of people from Ohio. I'd be happy to send out an exclusive discount code for anybody in the Ohio region for our classes. But we do our cooking classes at Forklift, which is our boutique cooking school and event venue. That's right around the corner from RC Culinary Lab. That's our commissary kitchen and boutique manufacturer. And of course, we have Route 657 here. But anytime any of you are ever passing through the area, please feel free to reach out to me, Rich at Rosendale Collective or info at Rosendale Collective is the best way, because there's a few eyes on that I will definitely follow up with you and be happy to give you a tour if any of you are in the area. Please feel free to reach out. Yeah.
All right. If no one else has any questions, we appreciate you, Chef, for coming on and spending time with us tonight. It was really great, really informative, and we look forward to seeing you in the future as you continue on down your path with all the different things that you do with Chef to Chef and ACF and the restaurants. So we appreciate everything. And again, thank you for hosting us, and thank you for everyone on the call. It was a great meeting.
My pleasure. Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful start to the New Year's, and thanks for spending the evening with me. So take care. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thanks, Chef.